Hello, and thank you for joining me in this presentation on COVID-19 and commercial business insurance. I'm Jason Riley from the Jacobs Company. I'm going to be talking today on business income and workers' compensation claims, as well as some premium reduction strategies. Obviously, with everything that's going on, one of the biggest questions we're getting at the office is, I've got business income coverage. Does it trigger? What does that take? What does that mean? To answer that question, we have to pull up your policy and go into what's called the business income coverage form. Now, what I'm looking at right now is an ISO coverage form. For most of us, that means it's the industry standard form. It's the language that most of you are going to have in your policy for business income coverage. When we pull that up, we read the terms and the conditions, and it says, we will pay for the actual loss of business income you sustain due to the necessary suspension of your operation during the period of restoration. The suspension must be caused by direct physical loss of damage to property at the premise, which are described in the declarations. Now, checking with the carrier on this, what does that mean? Do we have coverage? I pulled up some of the forms. Most of our carriers have COVID-19 response pages on their websites. I put up 2 carriers here. I tried not to list the carrier just so we don't get too upset with anyone. The first one, I highlighted that section. It says it's not possible to answer any hypothetical questions or claim scenarios regarding the coronavirus. Please reach out to your agent or talk to your claims department. The next carrier's blurb says every situation is different. It's going to be evaluated case by case based on the underlying facts and policy language. If you believe you have a business interruption claim, you can file a claim online. So we do. We file the claim with our insurance carrier. And unfortunately, what we find is the stance by many carriers to date is that the presence of coronavirus is not a direct physical loss or damage to the property. That is resulting in claims being denied. This interpretation leads to claim denials and ultimately lawsuits. I'm sure many of you have seen these in the media. It's not over yet, and there's a lot more to come. But not only is this getting the attention from attorneys trying to defend claims and overturn them, it's also getting the attention from legislators, insurance departments, and regulators. Currently, I believe there are 7 states in the country that have proposed legislation that aims to force carriers to retroactively pay business income claims as a result of the coronavirus. Of course, none of these are approved yet. It's all pending legislation, but there's even proposals on the federal level. There is a federal pandemic risk insurance program that some are proposing as well. In addition to that, the insurance administrators across the country, the Maryland Insurance Administration, they're really reaching out to carriers asking for clarification on, tell me why this business income coverage is getting denied. What's the stance? What can be done? So stay tuned. We do think there could really be some developments and some changes coming from all of this. What does that mean to you now? That means we're still going to ask you to file a claim. We want you to share any coverage denial with your legislators and insurance departments if you feel your claim should be covered. We continue to recommend that we file these claims, and we put the carrier on notice, and we force the carrier's hand to actually tell us, if there is not coverage, why do you not believe it to be there? We do want that in writing. What about workers' compensation? Well, in terms of COVID-19, claims are evaluated on a case-by-case basis, just like the GL, and coverage may only be triggered if both of the following are true. Now, this is true for most states. Number 1, the illness in question arises out of the course and scope of employment. This is with any workers' comp injury. It has to be in and out of the course of employment. The second, the illness in question arises out of or is caused by conditions particular to their work and not an ordinary disease of life, like the common cold, to which the general public is exposed. Now, many of you can see how this could be problematic with something like coronavirus, very difficult to prove. So if you have concerns, we're going to push that we file a workers' comp claim. This determination will ultimately not be made by the carrier in terms of if there is coverage or not. It's going to be made by your workers' comp commission. So this could vary by state, and I really believe that it will. So what about my insurance premiums? It looks like it could be difficult or a long shot to get covered under the business income under the current interpretation. So what do we do about my premiums today? Many carriers have actually suspended cancellations and billing. It's possible your carrier will give you a deferral or extend payment schedules, a whole lot more. If you can't make the payment, it's really important you just call your billing department. Let them know what's going on. One of our carriers out of Pennsylvania, Donegal Mutual, they've literally suspended any and all cancellations for a 60-day period while this is going on. So a lot of movement on the carrier side in terms of flexibility for premium payments. So don't just not make the payment. Maybe call the carrier and let's find out what our options are. Another thing with the insurance policies, we've got some payment flexibility. That's great. Well, it may not be advisable to just not make payments for 60 days. Maybe there's some other options for us. Workers' comp, for example, premiums are rated on payrolls. Well, as many of you know, your payrolls are significantly down. In some cases, for many of you, they've totally stopped. So let's report those changes to the carrier. Let's get those premiums adjusted based off of real-time exposures. Many of you now have staff working remotely. This is really interesting. Your staff may have changed roles from what they did previously. Maybe they were an inside office person, maybe they had a different role entirely. Now they're working from home. There is a telecommuter rate on workers' comp that is even lower than the office rate. So pay attention to that. The roles that your employees are in now might not be what it was before coronavirus came. Another issue is employees paid while not at work. We do want to make sure that you take close note of this. The very next slide touches on this, and we'll talk about why. General liability. That policy for most of you is going to be rated on payroll or sales. Again, those two factors are probably down in our current environment. So let's update those policies and just get the premiums adjusted. On the commercial auto side, we've got some flexibility there too. For many of you, your carrier is offering an automobile layup endorsement. Now, this is the preferred way to go. If there is a layup policy, you want that because that still satisfies the motor vehicle requirements for liability insurance, but yet at the same time cancels the premium for it. So it's a unique situation. Other carriers are offering straight out coverage suspensions. That's great, stops the premium entirely, but it literally takes the insurance off for several pieces of that vehicle. So use caution if doing a coverage suspension. You want to make sure you are subject to some additional liability on the vehicle theft side or physical damage, so just pay close attention to that one. The other note I put in here is avoid canceling coverage for policies you may not feel are essential. This is your EPLI, D&O, and fiduciary liability coverages, some others. It might not be wise to flat out cancel those policies if you don't have to. Right? In fact, I would actually really caution you against doing so. If you're in a situation you don't have a choice, you have to do what you have to do, but I strongly recommend that you avoid canceling something like an EPLI policy, especially in a situation like now where you're looking to lay off staff. Canceling insurance like that might not be a good move. So what about wages paid to employees when they aren't working? Will these wages be auditable? The short answer is yes. Today they are, but hold tight. Don't get too upset. We still want that coded differently because again, regulators are scrambling to try to make some changes. They haven't been through this before. They understand that is not the intent, of paying these wages to employees to keep them from going on unemployment. So I see no reason that this won't get passed. It's not passed yet, so that's why my answer is yes, they're still chargeable. But I think by the time things settle down, those wages made to employees who are not working will not be chargeable at the audit. But again, that's not approved yet, but I see no reason it won't get approved. Again, thank you so much for your time. If you have questions, my direct line is up here. It's 410-910-8355. I put my email in here as well as that for the claims department. I've got additional resources. Of course, you can log into Jacobs Live from jacobscompany.com and then go to managermod.com. I've got a similar article up there on this COVID-19 and some additional resources. Thank you so much for your time.